Thanks everybody for joining us today. I know some of you might have already met with our guest speaker today, Rafael Ramirez, who is with the Department of Services for the Blind. And he's going to be sharing with us different things, updates about the program. And for folks who are unfamiliar with the program, just giving us a nice overview, letting us know what services and resources are available. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Rafael right now. Rafael, thank you so much for joining us, and take it away whenever you're ready.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Rafael Ramirez. I am the Independent Living Services person for 10 counties in Western Washington, including yours. It's a program through the Department of Services for the Blind and also the University of Washington. I want to tell you a little bit about how I ended up here. Also, if you are familiar with this program, Marjorie was probably the person that was working that same position before. She, I think, passed away in early 2019. So myself and my story. I was born originally in Puerto Rico, which explains the name. I have ocular albinism. I moved to St. Augustine, Florida when I was 4 to attend the deaf and blind school. I pretty much went there for most of schooling. 9th and 10th grades, mainstreamed at the local high school. 11th and 12th grades, I went to the local Catholic school full time. I got some computer training at the deaf and blind school very early. I think they started teaching us typing in 4th grade, computers in 7th grade. I worked summer camps there for the blind in the computer room and also helped with summer camp issues. I worked the Lions camp for probably 5 summers also, working with blind and visually impaired. After graduating, I went and moved to Orlando, Florida, attended the University of Central Florida. Have a Bachelor of Science in Liberal Studies. Then I moved to Tampa Bay, Florida. And about a year later, after moving there, I began working at the Lighthouse of Pinellas for the blind. I was the computer instructor for 22 years. In 2012, I started working for the VA, helping blind veterans with their computer issues also. An interesting twist, in 2009, I went to the eye doctor to get new contact lenses, and my vision had improved where I could start driving. So at 2009, at age 38, I started driving.
Wow.
Recently, I've been wanting to leave Florida because of what's happening right now. There's a hurricane kind of barreling down. So I wanted to get away from the heat and the hurricanes, and have a friend that lived up in this area. So I've been visiting him for several years, and we had the opportunity to move up here, and I started working for this job July 2019. So any questions so far? All right. So let's talk about what the program is. I guess I'll mention what it used to be before COVID and what it's turned into now during COVID. Initially, I would get a referral from Department of Services for the Blind from an individual. I would call them up. I'd set up an appointment. I'd go visit them. We'd do the intake on that first visit, ask a lot of questions about information about you, what challenges you may be having, you know, if you're having issues in the kitchen with cooking or preparing meals, if you're having issues with cleaning, reading materials, any sorts of issues. We go through all the different kinds of questions and talk about things. I would carry some things with me. So the program allows us to purchase and give people some basic items, lighted handheld magnifiers, bump dots. You know, there's a budget. They recently increased it, so they are now allowing some basic electronics. Some people have computers or tablets or smartphones also that they used to be able to use and are having trouble using it now because of the vision loss. So that can be a little slippery slope in some cases, and let me explain why. Again, our program is somewhat limited, so we have a small budget of things that we can buy. Also, our time is limited, so normally it's about 8 hours that they can use per person, but that also sometimes includes the travel and stuff like that too. I have gotten people that are like, oh, I want to learn computers and tablets and this and that, and then I talk to them and they don't have one. So of course, that's not a situation where I could help someone. Also, if someone had never used a computer and now they're visually impaired and they want to learn, it can take hundreds of hours to learn to effectively use a computer. Luckily, tablets and smartphones don't require hundreds of hours of training. Um, uh, as some of you may know, the iPhone has a lot of programs that are free that do wonderful things. There's some that magnify, there's some that read things to you, there's some that help you with travel. There's one that connects with a live person that you can just point the camera to something and they can either read it or tell you what something might be. I do run into people who do have computer experience, but recently have either stopped using it because they can't see it very well anymore. Sometimes those are quick fixes. I can show them how to use a magnifier. There's a program called NVDA. Both of these are free. It can read things out loud to you. So that is something that has helped a lot of people get back to using the computer. The computers is my strong point, but again, any other issues that people are having, we can discuss, see what their solutions are, and go from there. What's changed now with the program because of COVID is that we're doing the intakes remotely, via phone. So I'll get a referral, I'll call the person up, I'll say, hey, what day and time can I call you? Takes 30 minutes to 45 minutes usually. And we'll talk on the phone. And again, while I'm filling out and asking the questions, we'll have discussions about various things and we'll make notes of that. After that, we can set up an appointment where I can either do more with the person in the house. They do require that we both wear masks. I have to do an attestation that I'm not sick and that you have to sign one that you're not sick. In some cases, there have been cases where I don't have to go see the person. They're like, oh, I need a magnifier or something. And I can just mail them something and then we never have any contact. We occasionally get donated items. Recently got a donated CCTV, a video magnifier. And then I had a client that needed one. So again, those devices can cost thousands of dollars, which don't fit in our budget. But if someone donates it, I can donate it to someone else. So I think that's the summary of the program. If you have any questions or.
Yeah, Raphael, this is Katie again. And Reed has written in, are there devices that you find easier to train people on?
Like technology devices, like smartphones and iPads, you mean?
Yeah, I can clarify that. So yes, I'm wondering if there are, like, for example, you mentioned there are a lot of free apps on iPhones and iPads. I wondered if those are your preferred device because of that kind of
yes. And I'll explain why. So yes, I prefer devices, iPhones and iPads. Computer-wise, I prefer Windows. I'll explain all that in a second too. Let's go back to the iPhones and iPads. The main reason, there's a couple of reasons why they're very good. They're very consistent across the board because the way that Apple creates their products. That's one good reason. Another reason is that there's a specific telephone number set aside that Apple has for people that need help with accessibility technology on their devices. So as opposed to you bought something, you call someone, the customer service, they don't know what you're talking about. They have to transfer you 5 times, 2 hours on the phone, you still can't get an answer. Apple has a direct phone line to help people with the disability products on their devices, and they know what they're talking about. So that's not available on Google devices. Google devices do have support. They don't have the same apps as Apple. I think Apple has the better part of the apps. And the other problem I run into Google devices is that there's not a lot of consistency because, first of all, there's a whole bunch of operating systems. You could take 5 Google devices from different manufacturers that all have the same operating system, and they can still be slightly different because Hewlett-Packard will tweak it one way, Samsung will do another, Google will do something else. So it's not impossible to work with Android devices, but for sure Apple has the pluses where I would prefer you know, if someone is really going to get something, I definitely recommend Apple over Android for those two main reasons. When it comes to computers, it's a little different story. Again, it depends on how much experience the person has, but what I run into, if you want to use a computer and you're visually impaired, you have two choices. One's called screen magnification, and that's basically any program that magnifies what's on the screen so that person can see it. And the other thing is a screen reading software, and that's something that reads to you what's on the screen. The Mac has both those built in. Windows has both built in. On the Mac, it's called VoiceOver for the screen reading software, and it's a bit more technical and has more steps to be effectively and easily used. Windows doesn't have as many steps. I myself use the Windows magnifier, which comes with Windows. It's not a very big program, but it magnifies. You can reverse the colors. There's another program that's free called NVDA. It stands for Non-Visual Desktop Access. And that's a screen reader program that a totally blind person could end up using the computer with it. But for someone that's low vision, when you turn that program on, if you just point the cursor to a paragraph, it'll read the paragraph out loud. You know, and if you're typing, it'll read as you type. So again, back to the Mac side, it's a bit more complex to get the screen reader to work. The magnifier is pretty easy, but that's my preferences. For phones and tablets, I would go with Apple. With computers, I would go with Windows. Any other questions?
Thank you. Yeah, any other questions? And we'll give people just a minute because I know everybody's muted, so.
Okay. And if you know someone or are someone that's visually impaired, you can call me direct, or pass my number to them and they can call me, and then we'll set up a time to work with this.
Perfect. And Raphael, do you mind giving us that number? And I'll go ahead and write it down, and we'll have that available to folks.
So my phone number, again, I moved from Florida here in July 2019. So it's a Florida area code. The area code is 727-452-5537. And again, that's 727-452-5537. While you're writing that down, I'll give you my email address also. It's fixit, Fixit, 727@gmail.com. So fixit, Fixit, 727@gmail.com. You can call or email. You can call or email any time of the day because I turn my phone off to go to bed. But
this is Reed again.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, go right ahead, Carolyn.
Oh.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
Am I allowed? Can you hear my voice?
yes.
Oh, all right. This is Carolyn Miller. I can't see you. Have you been on a picture somewhere?
I'm not on a picture. It's just got my two R's.
Oh, all right. So one time I saw you last year.
Yes.
You found this calendar that is just perfect. It's just black and white.
Large print calendar.
It's not the one that hangs on the wall. I have that too, and it's too big.
Well, it can hang, but it's like a double where you open it up and there's two sides, and it's half the month on one, half the month on the other. Yes.
So how do we get those?
Well, if you can afford it, you can go to Maxi Aids and order them. And if you're having trouble financially, then we can open up a case and I can send you one.
Well, I can pay for one, but trying to get the right place to order it is a big problem. If you could send it to me and I could send you money, I'd love to do that. I would buy several of them because they are just very good.
I'll call you because I have your information, and if that's the only thing you need and you don't want to work, then let me explain again. We're on a budget, so if
Oh, I can send money to you.
Well, just so everyone understands, in her case, since that's all she needs, and she, her buying the product is going to help me not reuse my budget money to help other people. And it's not that, if you need the help and you couldn't financially afford it, we can just open up a case and it would be charged through that. But that shouldn't be a problem. I'll get a hold of you and let you know.
All right.
I have a Surface, Microsoft Surface computer and or laptop. And can you tell us why you feel that it is Microsoft is better than other technologies?
Well, if you're going to be using screen magnifier or screen reading software, I think it's easier to use on a Windows than a Mac. There's less commands with the Mac. There's you have to interact with things, stop interacting with things. There's a lot more steps and a lot more keyboard commands to remember if you're going to use the voiceover on the Mac. You could probably, if you're just using the magnifier, it's probably equal, but the voiceover on the Mac computer is definitely harder than trying to use a screen reader on the Windows computer.
So, Raphael, if you have the Windows software on your iPad, you could just access the Microsoft, those two applications on that, if you just download the Microsoft software, correct?
Well, one of the things, I know this is true on the Mac computers. I haven't tested it on an iPad. Microsoft software won't read on a Mac computer.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why. It's been years and years. They still don't do that. I don't know if Microsoft and Apple hate each other, but I know, if you have a Mac and you've got Microsoft Word on it, the voiceover will not read on it.
Okay, so then Jim Surface is my new Mac.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Right. Raphael, this is Katie again. I know you had mentioned 8 hours as far as, for each individual, sort of how much time you can allot. So I was just curious, is that annually or is that just sort of like in a therapy? How does that work?
We can ask for an extension if need be. We have to make a plan. Obviously, like I said, if someone's saying, I've never used a computer and I want to learn how to use a computer, we won't be making that plan because that would take a lot of hours and they won't give us enough for that. I had an instance with a client that I had done an assessment with, and she seemed to be okay with an iPhone. So she ordered an iPhone, and I helped her with that, and then we did some training. We did go over with that, but she was successful with it and still moved forward, and there were some issues, the ordering and getting it set up. So they do allow where I can ask for over hours. And also people can, say that I work with someone and then a few months later, if something changes, they can call back and they can reopen the case and start over again.
Any other questions for Raphael before we wrap up here?
I want to mention one more thing. Talking Books. Are you all familiar with Talking Books? It's a nationwide program. Each state runs it. You can order it. It's free. It doesn't cost anything to the person if they're visually impaired. You get a device. It's about as big as a little bigger than a video cassette, if you guys remember. I'm dating myself a little bit. But it's all digital. It's not a cassette. They used to have cassette machines a while back, but this is all digital. The books come in a little cartridge that plugs into that machine. You can adjust how fast, how slow it speaks. You can adjust the tone to make it speak in a higher pitch or lower pitch. Some people hear one of those better. It has functions to move forward and back, place bookmarks. They can even place multiple books on a cartridge, so you can have 4 or 5 books on a cartridge. The machine charges up, and I think it plays 30 or 40 hours on a charge. You can get a headphone with it. You can call the library and ask them for a book. They'll mail it to you in this little plastic thing. Once you're done with the book, you take the label off that plastic thing, put the book in the little plastic thing, and stick it back in the mailbox. It's free postage, so it doesn't cost anything to get the books back. It's a very wonderful program for people who are not able to read anymore. They can listen to it auditorially.
It is fabulous.
Yes.
And also they have another program called BARD, You can download several books and some magazines. It's a little more difficult now because there isn't a real person. You have to do a lot by email, which is harder for me to do.
So
But,
Bard can be done a couple of ways. There's also an app that you can get on iPhone or Android. Again, you have to be a little well versed to use that because you have to start the app, search for books, download them, play them. It's a few more steps than physically working with the machine. And then on the computer end, it's a little bit more work also because then you have to actually download, unzip, transfer to a USB drive, transfer the drive to the machine. So they have those options also.
Yeah.
That's great. And Raphael, am I remembering correctly too that you can also get newspapers included in the talking book?
I believe they do. They do newspapers and magazines too, I think.
Yes, they do.
Okay, perfect.
I download my books directly from Bard. I have an app on my phone and my iPad. It's very simple for me because I can still read. I get very narrow vision, but I can see now why having the actual machine and getting the cartridges works so much easier for people who cannot read anymore at all. So I'm glad I kept mine just in case.
Yes, the machine is nice. It's not very big. It's got tactile buttons. There's different shapes. If you turn it on without having a book plugged into it, the buttons all describe what they do because they're not going to do anything with no book plugged in. But once you put plug a book into it, then you can use the buttons to, pause it, go forward, go back. Say that you switch cartridges out to another book and then you put the other one back in, it'll resume where you left off. So you're not always starting at the beginning. They do a lot of nice features with it. It's a very nice machine.
Thank you.